Hi everyone. So this tutorial will be part of the series of tutorials, a couple of tutorials on the operative diagrams. And one tutorial you've maybe already should have looked at before this one is the tutorial by Yo Sensei on covering the Rhino modeling, and he also goes into also the Illustrator setup for the operative diagram. This tutorial will actually start with the Illustrator portion, and I will go through some additional techniques and some additional ideas for introducing color and other types of treatments on those diagrams. So I won't be going to Rhino for this part of the tutorial. You will also notice that in the different tutorials and the download files, Illustrator files, there are some differences. The download file, the final diagram looks like this, but in the Illustrator, or I'm sorry, on the tutorials, the diagrams look more like this. I also, for this tutorial, I have this file, this Illustrator file, that shows sort of an after and step-by-step process here to describe. And you'll see that the configuration of the diagrams is also different from the downloadable files, but the techniques and the steps are basically the same. If you follow through with Yo Sensei's diagram, you'll probably end up with something that looks similar to this. And when you download the practice files from our website for this term, you will see that they look like this on the practice file. So we'll be using this, and I'll be referring to this document on the right side here as the example that we'll be going toward. I want to be able to create something that looks like this, with some extra color. And if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that the faces or the items that are actually being operated on are colored, and there's a fill and a stroke representing that color in each one of these, as well as some additional information, some dotted lines showing the hidden elements, as well as here, where we show sort of the removal pieces and some additional graphic and coloring treatments here and here, which I think helps clarify things a little bit with the use of color like that. We'll start with the very simple one. And of course here, in the very simple one, if these are closed polylines, all you need to do is select those all and type Shift-X, and that swaps the stroke and fill colors for those items that you've selected. Now, for some reason, you see that these are not complete. If we zoom in, it looks like that's one object and that's one object. So here we can use the Shape Builder tool to help fill that in. And so first of all, now with that selected, and I'll just go over here really quick. If you want to set the default color for your Shape Builder tool, all right, first do this. Let's double click the Shape Builder tool to open its options and make sure that gap detection is on, because if we want to be able to detect if there are gaps, we want Illustrator to help us find that and not ignore things that are just slightly open. That helps us a little bit. But keep the gap length small. All right, so that'll mean that Illustrator will treat any tiny little gaps as being closed, and that will help us be able to find enclosed areas. Here, pick color from, make sure this says color swatches, and then also click cursor swatch preview. And then these other settings should be, I think, the defaults. Keep fill and highlight here. Freeform is fine. This is about how we use the tool to select things. All right, we'll hit OK. OK, so now back to this file. I'm going to select something that this object that already looks a little bit like what I want. And then I'm going to hit go to the Shape Builder tool. Then again, I'm going to hold down my Control or Command key to get back to my direct selection tool, the black arrow tool. Select all these items that I need to fix. Once I take off the Command or the Control key, it goes back to the Shape Builder tool, and what has it done? It has taken up the default or the color of that first item that I had selected originally. So all the subsequent Shape Builder objects that the Shape Builder tool creates will have this fill and this stroke. Here, again, we'll just use the Shape Builder tool like we've seen before and drag across the boundary there that we kind of want to erase. And there we'll go back to, I'll hit V to go back to my black arrow. And so there, those are all now consistently one item. And what you can also do now is, if you want, we want to have a little bit more definition in these graphic elements, you see that each one of these has the black stroke. So what I can do is come back here, select that, and if it's hard to select them all with your arrow, and just by, if they're too many to click, you can just select one. If you know that all of these that we're looking at are the only ones in your file, you can select one, go up to the menu, select same fill color. You can also say fill and stroke. And you can see it selects all, 15 of those items. You see the bounding box there shows that those 15 items have been selected, and I can just add a stroke there. So I'll go to color, switch to my stroke, and put a black stroke. It looks like those ones I have to fix too. So we'll do that with the Shape Builder tool. So I'll just select those, go to Shape Builder tool, and do the same thing here. Cross through those. Because apparently those were filled or closed paths originally, but it just didn't, it wasn't apparent to us the first time we selected things and gave them fills. And now for diagram 2, we'll do this in very much the same way, this purple one. So I'm going to select all of those purple things just like that with my direct selection tool. Type Shift X to see what gets colored. And I can go ahead and give the stroke here as well, just to see. And let's make sure that that's, we'll give that the black stroke there. And so that will help reveal what's the proper, what needs to have the Shape Builder tool and what doesn't. It looks like there's quite a few here, so let's just go ahead and with those selected, we'll hit Shift M to have the Shape Builder tool, and because we had those selected and they were already the color we wanted, it picked that up for the Shape Builder tool, and we can fix these things. Oops, I guess I gotta maybe do that one, go back and kind of do that manually. There might be some things, and if we roll over all of these other ones with the Shape Builder tool, there's some there we see that for some reason not quite working. So let's see here. Maybe we can use the Pathfinder tool. We'll select those tool, Pathfinder, combine. Okay, it looks like there's a tiny gap between them. That's why. Now here's something else you can do. I'm going to zoom out here. Is in Illustrator to find out how accurate you're being with your drawing. Sometimes it's hard to see that because of the stroke width. There's a width to this line that's on the screen, and it scales when you zoom in, right? The line gets fatter as you get closer to it and skinnier when you get out. So if I select, I can turn off the preview mode and go into outline mode using Control or Command Y. And what that does is it turns it into just like a 1-pixel line drawing. And so we can see here that this item, for some reason, yes, has been split. And what I would need to do is use the Shape Builder tool. If I want to use the Shape Builder tool to fix that, I have to make sure that I select this line that represents that gap there, and hope that the Shape Builder tool can help include that in the final geometry for Illustrator. Same here. And so because what I did do before is I did not select that outline there. So we'll do that. We'll try that. So I'll go back to my preview mode and go and select a little bit more here. Go to the Shape Builder tool, and let's see if it Okay, so that fixed it. So it filled in, it found, because I had that line and that line selected this time, the shape builder tool is able to find a boundary there and fill that whole thing in. Let's see if it does it here as well. Yeah, there. I'm going to do that. I have to fix that manually. And let's try that. Okay, so it looks like shape builder tools, I'm going to have to fix these manually. We can do that. I'm going to zoom in here. Again, I'll go here. And just what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my white arrow. I'll hit A to get the white arrow. And I'll just grab this anchor and pull it there and join those 2 points. Put those on top of each other. And of course, this is a diagram, so we don't need to be extremely geometrically precise, right? So I'll go back and hit Command Y or Control Y here. And we'll select those and see if the shape builder tool, Shift M, works again to fix that. And that did it. That was the problem. And I've got a little bit of something here, and I'm going to just delete that line. And something that Yo walks through in his tutorial, and that we can do here as well, is just to start putting in some of these annotations. So I can, just like some of these arrows, I can do a stroke here. Let's see, let's give this maybe let's give this color of, let's see, make the stroke black. That might be too fat. So let's give this like a 2 point. And we can, under the stroke palette, when you have the options open, so make sure that this doesn't say hide options. So if you don't have the options open, it'll say show options. And it'll have option for the arrowheads. And you can put in these arrowheads straight from Illustrator. There we go. I can change the scale of that arrowhead. So let's make this maybe 50%. And unfortunately, it kind of changes the stroke weight there too. So let's make that 1 and make this 100. So there we go. That's a little better. And then we can take this. And this is if you haven't already put these in Rhino. So I can select that, go to my rotate tool, R, click here for the center, and option drag that to make a copy of that arrow. Do the same thing here, rotate tool, click here, option drag, and then kind of put that into place. For diagram 3, we will basically do the same thing. We'll see that the stroke of the extruded elements picks up the fill color of the faces. And also what we can do is go ahead and introduce the silhouette. We'll move that on top just to make sure that that's lining up and everything looks good there. So again, what I'm going to do here first is I'm going to select these individual faces here, and it might be a little hard to see if you're actually selecting them because Illustrator doesn't have a great sort of preview of when you've selected something, but we can always go back and do more. And again, here what I'll do is just to do Shift X, so that changes the fill to the stroke and vice versa. We'll again give the stroke let's see, a black outline, 1 point. So there's that. That's basically that. And now let's take the silhouette outline and make sure it aligns to this. And the way to make sure that you accurately line up things in Illustrator this way is when you grab something, you can see here when I hover over this point, here it says anchor. If I grab the anchor, it's going to be able to snap from anchor point to anchor point. So when I move this down, and you can see that as I move it down, the arrow is black. Oops, the arrow is black. But once I actually hit another anchor point, it turns to white. That means I'm right on another anchor point and it snaps. Okay, so let's, while that is still selected, I can right click and say arrange bring to front, or use this key shortcut, Shift Command right square bracket, or Shift Control right square bracket on Windows. Right, so we'll do that. Shift Command right shift bracket. It's blue right now. Let's change it to black. And let's change its stroke weight to something fairly heavy. And so that's what the silhouette should do. It should outline everything, the entire outside extents of the drawing. And it helps give it, it's a little cartoony, but it helps give this a lot of definition. And you look at some of the diagrams by Big, diagrams by OMA, they use this technique, diagrams by MVRDV. It really helps define things and make sure that we understand what the what's the subject of the diagram and what's not. If we go in here, there's also another sort of extra line here for some reason that was made, so we'll just delete that, clean that up. So now with diagram 4, on the left side, what you can see is I've done something a little bit different here than what's shown on the right side. Is there's dashing in of the hidden elements. Now you can do this in Rhino, of course, exporting the hidden lines when you do the Make 2D, or you can do a separate Make 2D for those hidden elements and export those separately. If you did not do that, I will show you how to how to draw that in Illustrator, and with these dashed lines that are represented. Let's see, by here, by that, all those hidden items behind this clipping surface or trimming surface, as well as these ones there. I think that can help to illustrate the operation that is actually going on here. Now, you have to be very careful. It may or may not make sense to do this for your own diagram. It may be a little too cluttered or hard to read. It's not legible if you do this. So you have to be very careful when you start showing hidden things in these diagrams and make sure that it serves the purpose that you want and that it is the end result is legible and we can understand what is actually going on. We start with the same technique that we did for diagram number 3. So we'll do this really quick. And in fact, we might be able to simply do this. Select these. I'm going to group them. Option drag, there we go. Let's do this again. Shift X. So very quick way of doing that. Okay, just by copying the previous one. Okay, and we can make sure that we're lined up. Let's see, let's put this on, we're on this layer now. We can make sure we're lined up by, let's see, I can move this over a little bit. I can select one of those and I can use my align palette there. So to make sure that I've dragged it to the right side and put it in the proper place. Okay, so that's a quick way of just doing that. Now, I'm going to do a similar thing to do the back geometry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this diagram here and do a little bit of selection there. Say select, same stroke color. And it selected everything, including the silhouette. I don't need the silhouette, so I'll deselect that. I'll come back here, do the same thing that I did with the blue faces here. I'll grab these, option drag just a little bit. I'm holding down shift also so it stays aligned. Group these, Command G, and now I'll put these on this layer. I'll use the eyedropper tool to pick up that stroke color, and then let's see, I can turn off these layers just to make things a little bit clearer. And under stroke, make these a dashed line. So 6-point line with a 3-point gap, that's all right. Maybe we can make it even smaller. We can make this a 4-point line with a 3-point gap. Something like that. And what you can also do is if these are all connected, use this, hit this icon on the palette, which means that the corners are all the stroke goes continuously around the corner, and it does not break at a corner, so that the corners are well defined. I can bring this over and align that. And to align these, I know that this and this should line up exactly. So I'll select my group there that I dragged over. I'll grab that one thing, go to the Align palette, and do that. And for some reason, it's not totally lined up. So there's some difference there that's going on in how it was drawn. So you need to be careful. I think there's some way that somehow when these got exported, I think that there was some movement or something that happened. But that's the basic technique on how to do that. So for diagram number 5, where we see this sort of negative positive removal operation, trimming or discarding operation, to create these dashed elements, we do a similar thing that we did in the previous step. So what I'll do is, here on the right side of my screen here, I'm going to select those items there that are the ones that are being discarded, Option drag this just to create a copy, and I'll just kind of put it someplace here. Let me select that other group that we had there with the back lines, the hidden lines, delete those. And now what I'll do is I'll go ahead and select those, make a group, Command or Control G, and now I will double click on that, and that puts me in isolation mode here. So I'm inside a group and I'm editing the items in the group. You can see everything else is faded a little bit. So I'll zoom in here. And basically all we need to do here is change everything to a dashed line, no fill. So I can select this and go to my eyedropper and click that. Actually, we can do that with everything. We can do that with the whole group. We can do that later, but I just want to get rid of that fill first. Just go through and just delete these items. Now I'll double click out of that. So there's the whole group. And what I can do again is I can change the stroke to say something lighter and give it dash for the whole group. And then what we can do is put this in place, align it so it looks like it's where it would be originally, and then just move this in a direction that shows that it's going to be discarded. And we don't really have room here to do that in this case because we're just kind of out of room, but that's the basic idea. And while we're at it, we can look at these silhouettes. I'll eyedropper that, and we can move these into place as well to see how those look. We have to make sure that this is in front. And with the thick stroke in front, it'll also help conceal if things are off a little bit. Oops, here. So we'll move that to the front. All right. And then what we can do here also is use the Shape Builder tool to, or this technique here, to create the filled areas. So again, just by selecting these already closed paths, hit Shift X, change the stroke to black, 1 point. There we go. We want to make sure that those are actually in front of those back faces. So let's make sure that If we select, do this same, select fill color, right, and bring those to front. And then bring the silhouette even to front on top of that. So we sort of have three layers of things here. We've got the main drawing, we have the faces with the black outline that are on top of the colored lines, and then the silhouette line on top of all of those. And there's probably just a little bit more we can do here with this diagram, and we can, what we can do is, let's see, change this, do Shift X, and make this the fill and stroke we want for the dashed line, and select that group, use the eyedropper, and there. So just make sure it's the proper color. Then for this one, where we don't have any colors in there already to start with, I find it best because being able to have Illustrator select things by color and differentiate things by color, I find very useful. So I'm going to just create an object first, just a rectangle or something, and give it the color that I want. So we'll use this color here, and we can use the shape builder tool and the other same techniques to do the faces. So I'm going to select those faces, use the eyedropper tool on those, all right? And then these areas are not enclosed paths, so we need to use the shape builder on those, okay? So I'll select that, which is the style that I want. And actually, let's do this. Let's say it's not quite the same style I want, so same fill color. So it's selected all those. I'll give it a 1 point stroke. So that now is the exact kind of graphic style that we want. And I'll go to the shape builder tool. It picks up that. Now I'll hold down Command or Control on my keyboard and select all of those. When I let go of it, it goes back to the shape builder tool. Now I can fill in these areas. We can go back to this dummy object we have here. Shift X, I can get rid of the fill, so it's just the stroke. Select these items here and give these all, use the eyedropper tool to color those. Select all of these, fill and stroke, and bring those to the front. So that's a semblance of something that looks kind of correct. And get rid of that. Change this to a 3-point black silhouette, bring that down. There. And this final diagram will be very similar to the previous one. We'll use the shape builder tool primarily to give these rings and the projected extrusions that color. And again, what I'll do is I'll create just a sort of a dummy object that I can use here, using as an eyedropper source. Give it some fill and stroke that we want to reuse over and over. Sort of this is almost the palette here. Select that. Use the shape builder tool, which picks up the color because I had it selected. Hold down Command or Control, select the things that we want to operate on, and simply fill these in using the Shape Builder tool. All right, so that was pretty easy. Now let's go back to our dummy object. I'm not sure what layer I drew that on. Put that on the proper layer, this layer that we're working on, lock everything else. I'll do the Shift X, and I'll clear the fill. Now what I'll do is I'll just select one of those. I'll select that, say select, same fill and stroke. Whatever's up here, I don't want, there we go. So I Shift deselected, and whatever's over here, I'll Shift deselect. There we go. All right. So now it's basically only those lines there, the black lines, that match that one black line there that I wanted, no fill, but 1 point black stroke. I'll eyedropper that in there. So that's changed all of those to the colored stroke. I can do the same thing here and say select same fill color, bring those to front now, Command Shift right square bracket. Right, so those are on top. And now just bring down the silhouette. And I don't know why it doesn't get the point there to snap, but that's okay because this diagram will turn that on to 3 points, bring it up to 3 points, bring to front, and voila. There's that diagram.